For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Hey! Thank you very much. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. I'm Jeff Belanger. It's great to be here with you. Tonight is an exciting show. We're talking about the future. Science fiction meets real science meets the present. It's going to be an incredible night. Very excited to have our guest with us. We'll be getting to him in just a moment. Want to remind you, if you're watching the show live on our website at 30oddminutes.com, you can jump in our chat room. Sarah and Rob are eagerly awaiting your questions. They will pass them up to our guest. They'll pass them up to me, and they'll make fun of you for anything silly that you might say in the chat room. Also want to remind you, you can watch all our past episodes for free on our website. You can download them for free from iTunes. You can see them in all kinds of places and all kinds of stations all around the world. So thank you. Keep that coming. Keep downloading. And keep your emails coming. We did get an email this week. I want to say thank you for that. And also, one other thing. Sign up for our email newsletter. Just go on our website and put in your email address. We only send you one email on the day of the show, and we'll tell you who the guest is, what's coming up. And just like this week, I had someone actually reply and had a question for our guest tonight, and I will get to that.
What about Twitter?
Twitter! Oh, follow us on Twitter and Facebook and MySpace and blimps in the sky and, you know, Nazca lines, wherever else we can put ourselves, we'll be there. Appreciate it. All right, this is what we got. Hey, Oddballs, just want to say a couple of friends of mine and I really like what you're doing, even when you guys mess up. Thanks. The subjects, we do mess up on occasion. The subjects are great and you guys crack us up even when things go wrong. It's still awesome. In fact, it's even more awesome because we know the show is real. Plus, it's fun for us to watch you squirm a bit. Ha ha. It says ha ha. I have to read it. I think the only complaint I really have about the show is about that Sarah chick you have on there. Why are you not making her do more on the show?
Yeah, why don't we make her do more?
Rock on and stay on. There's that Sarah chick. We're going to make her do more. Just wait till next week's show. She's going to do more. I promise. Okay, so the whole idea of cyborgs, merging man and machine. It's a subject that was on the cover of last month's National Geographic. Great article. We'll talk about that just a little bit. But it's a concept of, you know, think about people who have lost limbs. The artificial limbs are getting better and better. Mind-controlling machine. Where are we going? Where are we now? We're going to find out tonight. What an incredible guest. I want to tell you about Dr. Kevin Warwick. He's a professor of cybernetics at the University of Reading, England, where he carries out research in artificial intelligence, control, robotics, and biomedical engineering. He's also the world's first cyborg. Oh my God. How cool is that? In 1998, he had an RFID transmitter chip implanted in his body, and since then, he's only expanded the possibilities. He's the author of the book, I, Cyborg, and you've seen him on the History Channel, the Today Show, Late Night with Conan O, Sky TV in the UK, and about 1 million other programs. Tonight, he's all yours on 30-odd minutes. Live from Reading, England, please welcome Professor Kevin Warwick.
Yeah! All right.
How are you?
I'm just fine. How are you?
I'm great, and it's very early in the morning over there, so we appreciate you staying up late or getting up early for us. It's an honor to have you here, sir.
No problem.
So I want to start with the question I know you get all the time. Do you take the blue pill or the red pill?
Depends what day it is.
Right.
So cyborgs don't need pills.
Oh, right. Well, so take us back to August of 1998. You're ready to take this bold step forward, actually surgically implant something in your body. What was the point? What were you trying to accomplish and prove?
Oh, well, 1998 was just an RFID, a radio frequency identification device, and it was just showing what was possible perhaps with intelligent buildings. With that implant in my body, we got the computer in my building to recognize me, and it opened doors for me and switched on lights and said hello. So it was showing what was possible. The more important implant was one I had in 2002. That was fired into my nervous system, linking my nervous system to a computer. So that was much more serious.
Right. And so what happened when you were able to interface with the computer directly from your nervous system? I mean, were you nervous? Sorry, that's terrible. I really didn't even mean that. Were you fearful?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, it was
Yeah.
2 hours of neurosurgery. I mean, this was for scientific purposes. It wasn't that I had a medical problem or issue. It was for scientific research.
Right.
One of the things here, this robot hand, there we go, I was able to control that with my nervous system. So my brain signals, my neural signals, went down my nervous system, and then the implant was like a plug, 100 electrodes in my nervous system, and it linked my nervous system to this robot hand. And the robot hand has fingertip little sensors in the fingertips, and signals from those were transmitted back to my nervous system. So my brain could actually recognize how much force the hand was applying. So I could actually feel what the hand was feeling as well. So one of the things I did was control the robot hand directly from my brain as though it was another hand.
That's amazing. And of course, the implications are you could be a surgeon sitting comfortably in England and performing a surgery in a third world country in the middle of the desert from thousands of miles away, right?
Yeah, well, this is the incredible thing, but it is like it's part of your body. It is part of your body. Your nervous system and the network are connected together as one. So it's extending your body across the oceans wherever the internet takes you. So it doesn't have to be, for an amputee, they could have an arm or a leg replaced. It's just replacing their body. It's a form of therapy. But for anybody else, plugging their nervous system into a network, it extends their body and their senses wherever you want them to go.
And one of the things that you talked about in a previous interview is you feel you gained extra senses, right, beyond the normal 5?
Oh, I did. I wanted to actually test that out as part of the experiment, and I had an ultrasonic sense. Ultrasonics or SONA sense. It's like a bat type sense, and a lot of our robots is one of the little robots here, and these are ultrasonic sensors on the robot, and it gives the robot a good sense of distance, pretty accurate sense when something is getting closer or further away, and I actually had that sense. What was happening was as an object came closer to me, the ultrasonic sensors that I was wearing on a baseball cap picking up the object and was stimulating my nervous system. So as an object came closer, my brain was receiving pulses of electric current that increased in frequency as something came closer. And with a blindfold on, I could very accurately detect objects. I didn't know what they were because I couldn't see them, but I could detect objects moving towards me or further away, and I could move around and didn't bump into things.
Was that
We call that the force over here.
Yeah. We saw Star Wars too. There's gonna be so many science fiction references tonight. I'm sure they'll get old soon. But so was this an instant sense, or could you develop it? Is it something that got better, or was it just second nature?
It took about 6 weeks to train my brain to recognize the pulses. But then when we did the ultrasonics experiment, it was something that happened pretty quickly. So I think it is something, if anybody wants a SONA sense, then they can have that. Technically, we know it works. I think infrared is another one, detecting heat. I think that is another one that would work, but I haven't actually tried that yet. And other things, I mean, we don't know whether ultraviolet signals, X-ray, lots of different sensory input you could potentially have. Why be limited as a human when you could be a cyborg?
That's a question we will definitely address very soon. But do you think humans already have some of this ability built in? For example, ESP, extrasensory perception, PK, things like that. Is that already there and you're extending it?
Well, I was amazed with my ultrasonic sense. It was as though the brain was ready for it. With evolution, we may have had other abilities in the past that we have just fallen out of use. We don't know. I think we have lots of possibilities. Maybe with ESP, for some people, the ability is there, but we just don't know how to use it. We don't know how to get hold of it technically. What I was doing here was extending my nervous system, was having an ultrasonic sense, and was communicating in a sort of telepathic way with my wife. She had electrodes in her nervous system, and telegraphically we sent signals nervous system to nervous system, which was a form of telepathy.
Right.
Radar Love.
Yeah, Radar Love, another great song.
Very intimate, very intimate.
So, okay, so that was a big question I had. I did read about your wife volunteering. Can you take us through that conversation? Did she start it? Did you start it? How did that come about?
She gets very annoyed, actually, when people suggest that I forced her into it. She knew it was an important experiment, and I think the communication part was the most important. For me, that was the big one. No one had done anything like that before. I had the implant in my nervous system. What she had was a process called microneurography. These were electrodes pushed into her nervous system by a doctor. And as you can imagine, it was extremely painful, but she went through that. And we linked our nervous systems together, literally wired our nervous systems together, so that when she moved her hand, essentially just closed her hand, my nervous system and my brain, therefore, received an electric pulse. So every time she moved her hand, 1, 2, 3, I received a pulse in my brain. So it was like a very simple form of telegraphic communication. And when I moved my hand, signals went back to her nervous system. So we didn't worry too much about coding and telling each other, do you want a cup of coffee, and working out like a Morse code. But that would be the next step. Long pulses and short pulses, we would have been able to communicate that way. But quite simply, just pulses to transmit from one nervous system to another was tremendously exciting to actually carry out that experiment and show, yes, it works.
And so with further research and with further development, I imagine transmitting complete ideas and concepts without words.
Oh, you got it exactly, yeah.
Right.
I mean, how we communicate now as humans is absolutely pathetic in terms of speech signals. What are they? They are serial pressure waves, mechanical signals. That's what talking is all about. And what we're trying to get are highly complex electrochemical signals that we have in our brain. As you say, ideas and concepts and images and colors, all those sort of things. And we translate those into these trivial messages, our speech, and then somebody's ears convert those mechanical signals back into electrochemical signals. And of course, the other person doesn't really understand what it was you were thinking about. So the future, parallel signals, brain to brain, and communicate in terms of images and colors and graphics. It's a very, very exciting future.
All right, well, we do have a question for you, Professor Warwick, in our chat room. Sarah, what do inquiring minds want to know?
Tons, actually. But the first question we have is from Gregster. He wants to know if cyborgs were originally developed for military purposes.
Ooh, I think there are different types of cyborgs. It depends how you define it. Some are for therapeutic purposes. I think a lot of what we see in the media is helping somebody that has a problem, either replacing their arm or what we have seen, a guy called Matt Nagel, who literally couldn't move because of an accident and neurological problems, but able to control things, a cursor on a screen where they've connected with implants for into his brain to communicate. Instead of moving an arm, he moves the cursor on the computer screen. In the military, I think it's been more sci-fi and futuristic concepts. Sure, you have humans linked with technology very, very closely. You have infrared night sight, but it is still external. It's like a pair of glasses, if you like. If I put glasses on, am I a cyborg? If I ride a bicycle, am I a cyborg? It's linking the person closely with technology, but the technology is not implanted. It's not part of the person. And I think the military probably will go there soon because of the advantages, but only in science fiction, as far as I'm aware, that those sort of cyborgs where the technology is part of the individual.
Right. Well, I can tell you that Sarah has almost fused with her iPhone. I think that might actually be close.
Yeah, no, I had heard you can actually see the little on the side of her head there, but she uses her hair over it to cover it up.
Covers it up, yeah. She is becoming one. All right, we do have to take a very quick and a very odd break. Stay with us. Be right back.
And now, an odd fact with Matthew Moniz.
The electric chair was invented by a dentist. Isn't that odd?
This has been an odd fact with Matthew Moniz.
Thank you, Matt. Yet another reason not to trust dentists.
That's right.
Am I right? Am I right? Okay, last month's National Geographic, the cover story, Merging Man and Machine. I assume you may have come across this. The point of this article was more about helping people that have lost limbs to gain movement, and it's incredible. I mean, we're not talking about just artificial legs anymore. We're talking about literally an unfair advantage over those of us with flesh and blood limbs as far as strength, speed, mobility, you name it.
Cybermen.
Right. I mean, the $1 million man is here. So of course it has implications. All of this stuff has implications with folks that have lost limbs. Is that the kind of work you're doing as well?
I'm associated with it, but there's the two aspects to a human. There's the physical side, and the article and what you're talking about there is more taking where somebody has a problem physically, more an arm or a leg particularly, but it could be eyesight, for example. And there's now a lot of research into not only replacing eyes, but giving people different abilities. But it's the mental side of things that I'm more interested in rather than the physical. We are fairly restricted in what we do mentally. We do have implants to help people that have mental problems. For example, Parkinson's disease, there has been for some time available a deep brain stimulating electrode. This actually gets positioned right into the central area of the person's brain to counteract the effects of Parkinson's disease. So that is another example of therapy. But what I'm really interested in, as well as that, is using it to enhance. As you said, in terms of physical abilities, the potential is there to give a person physical abilities way beyond a human norm, a $6 million man style. But the same is true mentally. We're very limited in how we think. Our memories are fairly restricted. We're very poor at communication. We have limited sensory input. So my main interest is enhancing mentally.
Right. Okay, let's move toward artificial intelligence now. I want to show a video clip that was done by a new scientist. This is work that Professor Warwick is working on. Let's see the video and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Oops, sorry, it's almost ready. This is what happens. We have mistakes all the time. Let us know when we're ready in the back there. But what we're going to see is some of the technology that Professor Warwick and his team are working on. Incredible. What's possible? I mean, you see this and you're going to get a sense of where we are now and where we can be in a very short time. So really amazing. All right, roll it.
You may think you have little in common with this robot, but it is controlled by living brain cells much like those inside your own head. Researchers grew a collection of around 300,000 rat brain cells in the lab. The cells quickly grow collections to each other and start communicating using electrical pulses. When the clump of cells was connected to electrodes, some parts of it were found to respond predictably to signals from the robot's ultrasound distance sensor. The output from these cells can be used to control the robot's motor circuits, preventing it from bumping into obstacles. Because the brain cannot leave the lab, it communicates with the robot wirelessly. The team plan to use their robot's brain power for new patterns of behaviour in future. They hope there are enough similarities to teach us about unknown aspects of our own brain activity.
So is this machine thinking, or is it just reacting to its environment?
I would have to say it's thinking. It's a good question you're asking, because some cynics would probably say, oh, it's just reacting, just like humans maybe react. But in looking at how the brain is working, then I would say it is thinking in a way. Yes, it's a relatively simple brain, if you like, or culture that is being grown with neurons in it. But it is making decisions, and the decisions are embodied. They're actually operating a physical devices. This little robot here is receiving sensory input. The inputs stimulate the brain, and the brain makes a decision to move the robot around. Now we're looking to provide different inputs, not just SONA, but audio, potentially camera, visual, and to give it more things to do, not to have it on a little wheeled platform, but to give it legs to get it walking around. So the physical body of the robot could be a lot more complex, and so could the brain, to be honest.
Okay, so this is where we have to turn to our friends from science fiction. There's a tired theme that's been done in many movies and books. The whole concept that, of course, eventually man will build a machine that's smarter than us, that then, of course, realizes it doesn't need us anymore.
Yep.
Then the world is run by robots, and we're slaves at best, or annihilated at worst. How far are we from there? Weeks, months, minutes?
Well, this is the Terminator scenario.
Yes, right.
I think we're all right for the end of this program.
Oh,
sure.
good.
With a bit of luck. Ray Kurzweil has called this the singularity, when we get to that point that we can no longer control the technology. 2030, 2040 are the sort of technological guesses when we're going to get into a problem area. But it depends what happens after the singularity. Will it be intelligent machines, like in the Terminator, that was the case, or will it be a cyborg, an enhanced form of human? So if we can't beat them, can we join them? Can we upgrade with implants to improve our own intellectual abilities? That's what I hope.
Yeah, right. Okay, we do have another question for you in the chat room. Rob, do tell.
Yes, we have a question from Sue Paulin. I hope I said that right, from Arizona. She wants to know if you have done any work with, or plan to do any work with, using implants on mentally handicapped or autistic people to help them communicate or to learn.
So you mentioned Parkinson's disease and things like that. What about communication for people that are that impaired?
Yeah, communication, usually somebody can have some signals. You know, for a locked-in patient, they can move their eyes or something, and therefore I think there's a guy, Philip Kennedy, in Georgia Tech or near Georgia Tech, that has been looking at that sort of communication. I think potentially the technology could do a lot for such people to enhance their communication, to give them other means, but there are all sorts of ethical questions as to should it be used with neurological implants. My main work is with implants for Parkinson's disease, but particularly trying to predict not just using the signals to counteract the disease, but to predict when the typical tremors are going to start, when the muscle locking is going to start. And that's providing us with quite a bit of information as to how the brain is thinking, when we can actually start using the electrodes in the brain to predict what is going to happen in the next 20 seconds or the next few minutes, using artificial intelligence to outthink the human brain.
Well, let's talk about the ethics now. If people start to become cyborgs, it really is an unfair advantage. And talk about the haves and the have-nots. For people who might be able to afford that technology, where I think you've discussed in the past, imagine the ability to download books, not to your Kindle, to your brain, where you're gaining that knowledge as fast as you can download it. What happens at that point? I mean, what a rift in society.
Well, I think we do have in society now, with technology anyway, those that, whether they have the money or they're in the part of the world where they can get access to that technology, clearly they have all sorts of abilities. I mean, we are using this technology now. Somebody from Arizona has just been sending a signal in to somebody sitting here in Reading. We have that technology, whereas other people in parts of the world don't. So clearly that stretches society. I think what the cyborg technology does, this is implants in the brain to give you new abilities, it may be stretches and breaks it in two. So we will end up with those people that have the implants, that can communicate, that can have a phenomenal amount of memory, and those that are just regular humans, and they will intellectually be two very distinct groups.
Could our brains even handle this? I mean, think about this now. If you read a nonfiction book, or fiction, it doesn't really matter. But nonfiction book, you read the entire book, you've learned something, you've memorized a few things, but could your brain handle all those details at once? Would you forget your name, in place of, is there only so much room?
I think the only way we're going to find out is through experimentation, to be honest, as to how far we can push things. But the brains at the moment, our brains do things that perhaps they don't need to do. I mean, we know that computer memory is much, much better in many ways than the human brain memory. So effectively, why do we bother using the human brain to memorize anything? Why not just ship that out and use computer technology for that sort of thing? So I think it maybe is rescheduling the brain, but the one big thing we got is the brain is quite mercenary. It will do what it wants to do, and it will deal with complexity in the way that it can. So we can rely on our brains to sort things out to a large extent.
So what do you think we can expect to see in our lifetime? In the next decade or two? Well, where are cyborgs going?
Oh, lots of amazing things to help people with disabilities, but I do think the big one is communication. I would feel within 7, 8 years, 10 at most, we are going to have communication from brain to brain directly, thought communication. And that's going to completely change things, just like the telephone did in the past, and video phones and conferencing. This is going to blow all that out of the water. We'll be able to communicate just by thinking to each other.
And think about it. I mean, evolution has been a very slow process over the past few million years. Is it meant to get sped up like this?
Yeah, why not? Why not? I mean, we've evolved into what we are, and now we have the ability to speed up evolution itself by a form of techno-evolution. But why not? Why should we wait for the biological slow process to occur when we can turn the dial on evolution and move things forward at pace? We are so limited in what we do. Why not enhance our abilities so we can extend our capabilities way beyond our solar system?
This gets into really big questions, questions of ethics, questions of where we can go, what's possible. This was all science fiction not too long ago, and here we have the first cyborg as a guest on 30-odd Minutes. So incredible. Professor Warwick, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. You've been incredible. Really learned a lot. Thank you so much. Until next time, please stay on.
Thank you.